Welcome to LSC at Sportstime. I'm your host, Bob Hintz. Today I have with me Randal Pearson, former lineman for DeKalb High and now back over at Hampton High as assistant principal. Glad to have you.
Glad to be here.
Wow, well, I've talked to a lot of your buddies, and I'm glad to get you in here. Let's go back a little bit when you first started playing ball. But you had a problem because of your weight and the weight classes that a lot of the not only Pop Warner has, but also the rec league.
Right. Yeah. I started playing when I was in actually first grade. Didn't have any problems then. I played for Armstrong. Back in the day, I was Armstrong. Then I played again when I was in second grade, and then my third grade year, I was younger. But in rec ball, if you are, they go by your weight.
Right.
So your age really doesn't matter.
Right.
Right. So my weight was with the older kids because I was a chubby little kid, and of course my parents they didn't want me to play, and I didn't want to play with the older kids, so because of my weight, that just wouldn't have worked.
Because your weight doesn't mean you can, because you're not
exactly. It's a maturity level.
Right.
Exactly. So I had to stop playing football my third grade year, and I didn't play anymore until got to 8th grade for Hampton High School.
And you went over to play with the JVs.
Yeah, I played with the JVs when it didn't have a weight.
And a good friend of mine was your coach.
Right, Frank Johnson. Exactly.
Right. And so you really then started developing your skills for football as in the 8th grade.
Right, in the 8th grade. And I don't have any problems with saying this, because back then they would cut on JV and varsity and so forth and so on. And I made the last cut. It was between me and another person, and he sent the other person in, and I made the team. So I was fortunate. It was a learning experience for me throughout that whole year. But I think it was the Lafayette game. I was going to kick off. I ran down and made a real big hit, and I think that's kind of when I turned the corner.
Wow.
Right there.
But see, now you were just not inactive when you couldn't play football.
You
played baseball.
Baseball has always been my first love.
Okay.
I played basketball one year. I'm not really a big basketball kind of guy.
But baseball
was always my first love. Always been my first love. And
was you able to take some skills from baseball to help you in football?
Oh yeah, the hand-eye coordination.
Right. Yeah.
Just moving in from one base to the next. In short spaces, because I was always going to be a lineman.
Right.
That was always good for me. But the biggest thing was the hand-eye coordination. And I played pitcher, and also I played first base and shortstop, and was all-star for a few years. Win Beverly and I were also all-stars out at Northampton. That's why I played at Northampton. So and Todd Kelly, all of us about.
Oh yeah, Todd ended up going to Bethel in Tennessee and gone on to greater things. Let's talk a little bit about when you got to the varsity. And now you're up there with the big guys, and you're a 9th grader.
Right.
And you got Coach Smith, but the guy that really works with you is Coach Mitchell.
Coach Mitchell, yeah. My 9th grade year, like I said, I turned the corner. I think it was like the last game of my 8th grade year. And then I was in the weight room doing what I had to do, really got focused. And I really had my mind set on playing JV one more year in the 9th grade, And when I went out there for summer practice, I had a real good summer practice, and everything was just kind of going the right way, And it was actually looking like I could have stayed up on varsity, to play as a 9th grader, as maybe a backup lineman or what have you. But I made the decision that I wanted to go down and get some more experience, down on JV. And I was talking to my parents and so forth and so on. And I just decided to play JV one more year.
Right.
But I could have played varsity as a 9th grader, but I just wanted that experience.
Right. Now, talk a little bit about this kiddie corps.
Oh, no, that was our 10th grade year. Our 10th grade year, right. Now, our 10th grade year, it was me, Keith Powell, Sherwood Jones. We all came up, because we all played JV. We all came up to play varsity our 10th grade year. And about, I would say maybe the 4th or 5th game of the season, Hampton was like riddled with injuries, And one thing my father always told me, because my 10th grade year, I had a conversation, I'll never forget it, just like it was yesterday. My father and I, we had a conversation. He just got off worked at the shipyard. And he asked me, how was everything going? And I told him that, it's going pretty good on varsity, but, I kind of prepared him, well, Dad, I might not play that much this year as a 10th grader, And his message to me was, you don't worry about that. You just do what you're supposed to do and be ready when the man calls your name.
Wow, okay.
Well,
good.
Few people went down. And sure enough, he called my name. And same thing happened with Keith and also with Sherwood. And because Keith played center, I played left guard, Sherwood played the right guard. And we went in and we never came out.
Couldn't get
us out of there. You had a 9th grader and 2 10th graders. And, you know, we were playing with Linwood Lumpkin and, you know, Leslie Bailey and Tim Barnes as our quarterback. You know, we had a lot of experience, you know, and we were considered kiddie course because I was 14. I was a young 9th. I didn't turn 15 until December.
Right.
So as 10th grade, I was 14. You know, so we kind of.
They had a little article in the paper about you.
Yeah, it was a kiddie course. Yeah, they did this little thing on all of us, all 3 of us. You know, but that was real neat.
Then you was able to be on 2 championship teams, both in '85 and '86.
Right.
Talk a little bit about that experience, because you had different quarterbacks.
Right.
And each team has its own personality.
Sure.
And so, you know, to win back-to-back is, I think, is great.
One thing that helped us out a lot is that we all knew each other. We all grew up together, so we all had that camaraderie there.
Right.
And we all played football together. So our 10th grade year, we did make it to the state championship against T.C. Williams, but they had like 22 seniors. They were really experienced, and we lost 10-0. But then we just had a laser-like focus that upcoming year, our junior year, when Michael Bullock was our quarterback.
Right.
And we went 14-0. We had some tough games. You know, we didn't
they weren't rollovers.
No, they weren't. No, we had some real tough games that whole year. Robbie Robinson, all of us played, but we were just focused that we weren't going to be denied that year, and it was great. You know, it was a great experience to win the state championship. But it was the camaraderie, the closeness, and we knew each other. We knew each other. So that was the biggest thing, and we were very experienced up front. You know, nowadays, you know, you have all these specialty guys. Everybody wants to be a specialty guy, but you don't have that much experience on the line. Well, in my opinion, that's where it all starts.
Oh, me too.
In the trenches. In the trenches.
Yeah.
And if you have experienced linemen, then that's gonna you know, show you the way.
Well, you know, a lot of people have talked about the football on the peninsula, and they said if you get through the peninsula,
absolutely,
you have played probably some of the best competition you're going to play in the state.
Absolutely. Yeah, I live in Chesapeake, and I had an opportunity to really meet a lot of people over on the south side, and that's always been the thought. You know, if you can go through, they call it the PD.
Right.
If you can go through the PD, then you know you can make it out. You know, but a lot of times, especially during our era, whoever came out of this region, a lot of times won the state championship, and the state championship always came through the peninsula.
Because it was like you and Bethel there for a while, and then
then Phoebus emerged, and then Ward came up. You know, and they had Ray Savage and Derek Steele and those guys.
Right.
So they kind of emerged too, but it was just the laser-like focus that we had, and like I say, we weren't that big, but that experience.
Well, what about the following year? Because now you're going to repeat. You got the big bullseye on your back. Everybody's trying to knock off Hampton.
Oh yeah, now
you got got a new quarterback,
right? And we all went to we all went to junior high school together. Lindsay. Now we started that year off. I mean, we stormed out the gates. I mean, we were blowing people out, had shutouts and that sort of thing. And then we kind of ran up on a bump when we played Menchfield, and I think we might have just took them real lightly. We played Menchfield, and we just barely beat them 7-0. And I mean, after coming off of beating Denby like 56-0, when they had Marcus Michael, Troy Gresham, and those guys like that, you know, that was a big shock to us. Then the very next week, we played Lafayette. I think Troy Jackson, I think that might have been his name, and they had two big linemen, Beef Brothers or whatever they called them or whatever. And we lost. We lost that game, 14-0. You know, so that kind of put us down in a slump. You know, so and then we turned around and we played Kickerton. We lost to Kickerton that year too.
So you had two losses and still won the state championship.
Still won the state championship. We were half a game ahead of I want to say Bethel when we played them.
Probably was. That year would be Bethel, because in the mid to late '80s it was Hampton Bethel.
Right. Like. And what was so unique about our era, those 3 years, my 10th grade year we lost to Kickerton and Bethel. We lost to Kickerton and Bethel in '84.
Right.
And then we turned around our senior year and we lost to Lafayette and Kickerton. I didn't have a good showing against Kickerton. We've only beaten Kickerton one time my years there. We lost to him twice. This was Kurt Newsom and I think Johnny Paul might have been in.
Yeah, Johnny was helping him coach. Yeah. Right. So now you graduate and you go to Virginia Union.
Right.
Walked on over to Virginia Union, right. and you got some friends up there.
Right. William Beverly, he went to Virginia Union. I didn't decide to play ball probably until like June of the upcoming year. So I was trying to stay in contact with Coach Taylor. I just wanted to walk on, just get a shot. And by me coming from Hampton High, that kind of sealed the deal for me. Yeah. So
this guy's got 2 state champions under his belt.
Right.
We'll give him a chance.
Exactly. So I went in, and Coach Taylor gave me the opportunity to come up and try out. And my whole thing was, I just wanted to get a shot. And I always kept that thing in mind that my father told me as a sophomore. You just be ready when he calls your name. And that's the one thing. That was kind of my foundation when I went up there. All I needed was a shot. And my shot came, and I played defensive line. Actually, my freshman year, when we played Hampton University, I came there and played nose guard. I started against them because D-Rock was the quarterback, oddly enough. He was the quarterback for Hampton his freshman year, and I was looking at him, on the other side of the ball, So he and I have always had that kind of back and forth, throughout our CIAA time at our schools. And then the next year, my sophomore year, I played offensive guard because Union ran a wing T at the time. And I could pull or what have you, and so Coach put me in, I played there. Then my junior year, I lost a lot of weight. I came down, I was almost down like to 220. And then the position came open on the other side of the ball, the inside linebacker. And I played
This is what I want to talk about because you really excelled at the inside linebacker.
Yeah, I was all CIAA. My senior year, I was all CIAA first team. I was all state first team, and I was Black College All-American my senior year.
And this is a position that you didn't play before.
Never played. People had told me, and I've always been that type of person where people might kind of say you can't do this. I like to kind of prove people wrong. I was always told that, you might get played offensive guard or defensive tackle, but it's hard for a person to go from 4-point to 2-point stance. So I said, all right.
But you did it anyway.
Did it anyway.
I will prove them wrong.
Yeah, so that's
and one of the guys up there at Virginia Union ended up, you had a good deal with him, and it was Carl Francis.
Oh, yeah, Carl, yeah. Carl came, he went to Lees McRae his first semester. I think he came to Union his second semester.
Right.
Second semester. And but we knew each other from home, from
right.
Hampton.
He was at Bethel, and you were
right. We met, and I'm gonna tell you, and I got to tell the story. We met when we were in summer school class together, and we were taking government. Back then you could take government to kind of get ahead, and it was Carl, myself, William Beverly. We had a host of guys in the class, and we just had a ball in that class. And I mean, it was and it was at Bethel. It was such a competition that every day we were going back and forth about Hampton Bethel. And the whole class they were just getting so whatever, to the point to where we were able to we talked to the teacher and let us watch the game the year before that, and we made the whole class watch it. So that's kind of how we were, how deep it was with us. And then when it came up, it was just second nature, and we call him CJ. CJ and I, we've been close for years. We still talk every day, almost on the phone every day now. So.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
But he was also in your wedding?
Yeah. He was my best man. My father passed away. I wanted my father to be my best man in my wedding, but he passed away before I got married. So the next guy in line was Carl.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about now. You just go into teaching, and but you're not teaching over here. You're not in the Hampton system yet.
No. I graduated from Union in '92. And I started teaching in Newport News at Huntington. Then I went over to Crittenden for a little while, and I did that for a couple of years, about 5 years. And then I went over to Norfolk at Ruffner Middle School. Right. I taught at Ruffner for 4 years.
Now, but while you was over there, you got your master's at
Right,
Norfolk
I got
State.
my master's in 2000 from Norfolk State. And then I became a dean of students at Northview Middle. And then I was at Lake Taylor High School as a dean. And then I came out of education for a few years, and then I did mental health. And then I went to Franklin, because education was my calling. I just wanted to get back in. Went to Franklin. I was alternative education teacher in Franklin, driving back and forth. But I got riffed. Having budget cuts, and I got riffed from that position. So then, didn't have a job at the time. Came over and found out that William Beverly had gotten Lindsay.
And you knew William.
Yeah, William and I, we go way back. We go back further than Carl and I, right?
Okay.
So at that point, we talked or whatever, and he had a long-term math position at the school. So I said, I'll just take, anything at this point. I have a family to support, I can't be choosy. So at that point, I worked over there. Then in October, Hampton State Schools offered me a contract to teach algebra, 8th grade algebra. So I came on board over there. And then they were going back to the budget cuts again. Didn't know if I was going to get riffed again, but luckily I didn't. I didn't get riffed, but I was supposed to be bumped to another school. And then the Hampton High position came open, and I applied for that. And now
you're assistant principal over.
Assistant principal at Hampton High School.
Over there,
over.
And you got to get to see Mike Smith again.
Coach keeps me up. I see him every day. And Coach is great though.
He is.
He's a good guy. One thing I've learned from Coach is that I get a lot of information from him, and I filter a lot of things that really can help me. But Coach has a lot of knowledge. I mean, you can't be doing something for 40 years.
Absolutely.
And not know.
And not know and not be good at what you're doing.
Not be good at what you do.
Right.
So I take everything in that Coach gives me. He gives me a lot though. I really appreciate that.
I'm going to end this up. We're going to end it up, but I want you to, what you would do if you get a chance to sit down and talk to some young student athletes, what would be your message to them?
Well, one thing I tell, because I also coach Pop Warner and I coach the little kids, but my message is still the same. Whatever you put into it, you're going to get out of it. You have to look at life as something that's ever changing. Something you always have to be prepared. You always have to be ready. Put yourself in a position to be ready, just like on the football field, in the classroom, get as much as you can get and do what you can do. And everything else will work out. It doesn't have to come right away, but you just stay the course, stay on path, and just be patient. I had to learn that a long time ago. I'm still working on it. But you got to be patient, though. You got to be patient. But the key is you got to be ready when your time comes around. And all of that relates to life and sports. That's the beauty of having sports and life. All that stuff comes together. So when you're ready, you'll be ready.
Appreciate you coming in.
All right, appreciate you having me.
All right, thank you for tuning in to LSC and Sports Time. I want to thank our special guest, Randal Pearson, for coming over and sharing some of his thoughts with us. I'm your host, Bob Hintz. Until next time.